Welcome back everyone. Today we're diving into another video in our series where we break down and define common photography terms that you often hear but might not fully understand. This series aims to help you grasp these concepts and use them more effectively in your flash photography. Let's dive into our topic today, which is TTL. TTL stands for through the lens, which is a technology used by modern cameras to measure the amount of light passing through the lens to determine the correct exposure. When we talk about TTL in flash photography, we're referring to the camera's ability to automatically adjust the flash output for a proper exposure based on what the camera's metering system reads. So how does TTL work? In most cases, when you press your shutter button halfway, your camera's metering system evaluates the scene's ambient light. When you fully press the shutter button, the camera fires a pre-flash, a brief, low-power burst of light. The camera's sensor then measures the light reflected from this pre-flash and calculates the proper amount of flash needed for a correct exposure. Then, the flash fires with the calculated power when you take the picture. Now, why would you use TTL? There are several benefits, but also important limitations to be aware of. First, automatic adjustments. TTL automatically adjusts the flash output based on the lighting conditions, making it easier to get a properly exposed image without manual adjustments. However, in scenes with very bright or dark backgrounds or clothing, TTL can struggle to find the correct exposure because your camera's meter is aiming to take the total tonality of your scene and have it be 18% gray, which can lead to dramatic over and under exposures. This is the same thing that's going to happen when you use automatic exposure settings in your camera, and that's the same thing that's going to happen with TTL. Let me just show you for a second here to drill down on that a little bit more. So this is my color checker passport. If I switch over to this side, it's going to be the white card and the gray card. So the way that all meters work for the most part is what they're doing is they're reading the scene and they're looking at the bright parts and the dark parts, and they're trying to take a picture so that the average of all of those tones is equal to 18% gray. That's why you could take this 18% gray card and hold it in the lighting conditions that you're photographing in and point your camera at it, and its meter would look at this and it would get the correct exposure because your camera is calibrated to work off of 18% gray. But if your scene is significantly lighter or brighter than 18% gray, then what's going to happen is that something's going to fall on the floor and things aren't really going to work out for you, because if it's a lot brighter than 18% gray, think about photographing a model in a white dress on sand, then your picture is going to be underexposed by quite a bit because it's trying to make that white brighter or darker, and it's going to make it gray. And so then think about it like, what if you're photographing a person in all black clothing in front of a black wall? Well, it's going to significantly overexpose your image because it's trying to make it 18% gray. So the same limitations that we have with our camera meter during normal automatic exposures, those are going to be the same limitations that we have when using TTL. However, the second reason why you'd like to use, or why you would want to use TTL, is speed, because it's great in fast-paced shooting environments when lighting conditions change quickly, such as weddings, events, or photographing a model at dusk who is rapidly posing and moving while you yourself are constantly moving the light and changing your composition. I might know something about that because that's exactly what was happening during this shoot with Canon when I was using TTL for a review that I made about the Elinchrom 1 flash unit, which I will link to. However, TTL can be less reliable in complex lighting situations or when light sources are pointed directly at the camera, like a hair light or an edge light, or maybe having the sun in your frame can sometimes throw it off. Additionally, if you're using TTL and like the results, and if the conditions aren't changing too rapidly, your flash manufacturer may allow you to switch your flash to manual mode or change your trigger to manual mode, which will carry over in some instances with the settings that you were using during your last TTL exposure. That's how my Elinchrom lights work with my Elinchrom Pro trigger. So it's very easy for me to switch over after getting an initial exposure with TTL, and then I can refine things more with the trigger in manual mode. Also, you can set up multiple lights and use them in a TTL exposure with different exposure compensation values for each group the lights are assigned to. For instance, you could put your main light in group 1 and set the flash exposure compensation to 0, and you could put the fill light in group 2 and set the exposure compensation for that group to -2. Setting up TTL on your camera and flash is simple. First, ensure that both your flash and trigger are capable of TTL. If your gear is older, TTL may not be an option. To enable TTL, you normally just switch the trigger to TTL, but you may need to enable TTL mode on your flash too. Second, set your camera to the desired shooting mode. TTL works well in aperture priority, AV, shutter priority, TV, and even in manual mode. I prefer using TTL in aperture priority outdoors for more control over my depth of field, but you can choose the mode that best suits your shooting style and the conditions. Once you start shooting, take a few test shots and see how TTL is performing. You can usually use flash exposure compensation to fine-tune the flash output if needed, which could be on your trigger or it could be on your camera. Understanding and using TTL flash metering can significantly streamline your photography workflow, especially in dynamic shooting environments. It offers the convenience of automatic adjustments, helping you to achieve the perfect exposure more efficiently. But as I said, it does have limitations, so make sure that you're checking your exposures throughout the shoot when you're using TTL and make sure that you're on the right track. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions about TTL, how to use it in your photography, or suggestions for future videos, please let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and sign up for the bell. And if you found this video helpful, consider sending a super thanks to support me to make more videos like this one. Have a fantastic day, and I'll talk to you soon.